Hi everyone, I'm Emily Verhoek, the Outreach and Teaching Coordinator for the Queen's University Biological Station. Today I'm here at Elbow Lake Environmental Education Center, and I'm going to explain a little bit about how to identify trees in your area. To start off, I'm going to explain some of the resources that we have available for you. So we have included an online identification key for you to go out on a walk or in a local park so that you can go out and do what I'm doing today. So you'll be able to use this information to go and try to figure out what kind of tree you're looking at. To start off, I'm going to talk about the first level of our key. So it says whether the needles are in bundles, individually attached to a branch, or scale-like. So I'm going to explain what that means. So first off, we're going to talk about needles in bundles. So we can see here on this that these needles are all attached to the same spot in a bundle. So we have all of these needles attaching at one location. So if you find a tree that has that, though, that is the strand you're going to go off from. The next one is if you have the needles that attach individually on to the branch. So you can see here, each one of these needles is attached by itself. It's not connected with another needle on to the twig. And then finally, the last one is whether the needles are scale-like. So I'm going to show this a little bit up close, and I'll show another photo, but you can see that these look like individual scales. They're not needles like this, but it actually looks more like scales, kind of like on a fish. So those are the three different main types of trees that we'll be looking at, and then we'll go from there. One thing I want to point out when you're going to do this activity, you want to make sure that the trees that you're looking at are in fact trees. So this in front of me here, though it is an evergreen and has needles, it's not a tree. You can see there isn't one main trunk. It is a shrub. So the key that we're using today will not help you figure out what this plant is. But this one over here that you can see has needles and has one main trunk, that we would be able to figure out what it is. Hi everyone. All right, so the first tree we're going to look at here, if we look at these needles, we can see that they are in bundles. So they're attached to the twig in little groups. And so the next kind of question is how many needles are in each group. So we can see on this one, when I count, this one's in 4, this one's in 5, but there's also some in 3. So that's a little confusing when you're trying to do just the number of needles. So the next clue that we're going to use is what the needles themselves are like. So we can see here they're very flexible. They don't bend and break. And they're not sharp. If I poke them into my hand, it doesn't hurt. So those clues tell me that this is a white pine, an eastern white pine. So it has bundles, usually in groups of 5, but not always. The 5, I remember that there are 5 letters in the word white. And so 5 needles in a white pine. And the needles are very bendy and flexible, and they don't break when I bend them. So that's how I know that this is a white pine. Okay, so the next tree we're going to look at here, when I bring it up into the camera, you can see that this has scale-like needles. So all of the needles kind of blend into each other and kind of look like scales on a fish. So we only have 2 kinds of trees in our region that have scale-like needles. And so size is part of it, but the main thing that I like to look at is the shape of the needles themselves. So if we look at this really closely, we can see that these are round. So they have 4 sides to them. They're not flattened. They don't look like flat scales. All of these little twigs, all of these little needle bunches are rounded. So that tells me that this is a red cedar. And I'll show you a white cedar so that you can see the difference. Okay, so I'm going to show you another tree here. So this one, as you can see, also has scaly needles. So the individual little needles blend into each other and look like the scales of a fish. But this one, which is different from the other one we looked at, and I'll try to turn it on its side so you can see, these ones are flat. So they're not rounded. They're very flattened. I don't know if you can see that when I turn it. So that tells me that this is an eastern white cedar. All right, and so those are the two native cedar trees that we have in our area. And the main way to tell is those scaly leaves, and then whether they're flattened like this or whether they're rounded like the one we looked at previously. Okay, let's keep looking. Hi everyone. Okay, so here is another tree, one we haven't seen yet. So if we look at this, you can see that this one has needles that are attached to the twig directly. They're not in bundles. So the next thing we're going to look at is whether these are all flattened, they're all on one plane, or if they're all the way around the twig. So in this one, you can see they're all the way around the twig. So we have two options. We have black spruce or white spruce. So it has to do with the length of the needle. So these ones are longer, and if I took my ruler out, you'd be able to see they're about 2.5 centimeters long. And they have a waxy coating on the outside. So this tells me that this is a white spruce. A black spruce, I don't have one on site to show it to you, but the needles are much, much smaller and they don't have that waxy coating. They're darker colored. So if you were trying to figure out between the two, that's how you decide. A spruce tree overall reminds me of what you'd get as a Christmas tree. So that shape, and with branches going all the way down to the ground, with needles all the way around, just like you'd get at Christmas. All right, we'll find another one and I'll explain that one next. Okay, so we found another tree that we haven't looked at yet, and I'm just going to show you. I'm going to turn around here and show you this tree. So the trouble with some trees is that the needles are so high that you can't actually look at them up close. So you can see they're way up there. You can't look at them that close to figure out what kind of tree you're looking at. So that's where you have to do a little bit more investigating. And though they're evergreens, the needles do fall off eventually. So I went and looked on the ground and found some of the needles that had come off. So we can see, because these needles are stuck together, we can tell right away that they're in a bundle. So they fell off together in a bundle. And you can see there are two needles here. So that tells me that this is a red pine. Another way to tell is that the needles themselves, they do not bend, even the green ones, they don't bend without breaking. They break because they're much more brittle, and the ends of them are very pointy. So if I poke them into my hand, it hurts a little bit compared to the white pine that we looked at earlier. That doesn't. It's quite soft and very bendy. So this tells me that this is a red pine. Okay, another tree that we're going to look at here at Elbow Lake is this right here. So if you can see here, these needles are also in bundles. So I have needles of 2 together coming off of the twig. So we have two options with this. It can be a red pine or a jack pine. Where we would decide is whether they bend and don't break. So these are bending and not breaking, and their length. So you can see they're quite short. They're about 2 to 3 centimeters long compared to the red pine that we saw earlier, which were much, much longer. So this here is a jack pine. Thanks so much for joining me today and learning a little bit more about trees. I hope you are all inspired to go out on your own with your families and try to figure out what you have in your backyard or in your community. Good luck, and feel free to message me if you have any questions on our social media page, which you can find on our website, elbowlakecenter.ca. If you liked the activity that you did today and you want to do some more, we have lots of online activities on our website that I encourage you to go and check out, so that this summer you'll have other things to do outdoors with your family. Also, if you have a child between the age of 8 and 18, we encourage you to check out our summer day camp called Eco Adventure Camp. This year we will be running it virtually, and we have 2 different age groups. One, the Leader in Training Camp, is for children aged 13 to 18, and this will run the first week of July and provide some great leadership opportunities for them, as well as some volunteer opportunities throughout the rest of the summer to go towards their high school diploma. We also have our regular day camp, which runs the rest of July and August for campers aged 8 to 13. And that's where they'll be able to do fun activities from home that are environmentally and outdoor focused. I think it'll be a great time, and I really hope that they can join. Please check out our website, ecoadventurecamp.ca, to find out more. Thanks so much. Hope to see you this summer. Bye.